Hey, it's Robin, and before we get started, I've got a question for you. And this is the question: what is your biggest challenge with soloing? Right? So, what is your number one challenge or problem, or what do you find most difficult about improvising or soloing? Okay, so when you're playing over a tune, what is your biggest challenge? So, type that as a comment below this video, and I would love to know. Okay, I answer all my comments, and I will answer you. So welcome to the show. My name's Robin, and today I've got for you a really simple guide to Gypsy Jazz soloing. Right. So if you answer this question, I'll just play a little bit. Think about it. Type it in as a comment. What is your biggest challenge with soloing? And I'll just play a little bit. So if I was improvising. What is your biggest challenge? So that's the question. I would really like to know from you what the answer is. What is your biggest challenge with soloing? Type it as a comment, and that's how we're starting today's show. Now, I'm teaching this class over at the Gypsy Jazz Club on Friday, and it's called A Simple Guide to Gypsy Jazz Soloing, okay? And I'm going to be sharing some real clear thoughts to help you, ultimately, to help your solos sound meaningful, melodic, to help your solos sound groovy and impressive, okay? So I've kind of thought about it, and I've got this whole class that I'm going to be teaching at the Gypsy Jazz Club. And if you go to gypsyjazzclub.com, right, gypsyjazzclub.com, if someone could type that in as a comment as well, that would be awesome. If you go there, put your name and email in, then you can join the class on Friday. And it's going to be an awesome deep dive into help you with your soloing, right? To make it sound more meaningful and melodic. Now, when I was growing up, I used to play blues, rock, heavy metal. So I've just got a little story for you. I used to, I knew the blues scale, right? So didn't have a problem with the blues scale, okay? And I used to live in this pub. My mum and dad used to have this pub in England, and these jazz guys used to come in downstairs and play sometimes, these guitarists. And I would sometimes go down, or I remember going down once, and I said to the guy who was playing jazz guitar, it was dead fancy, and I said, what is the jazz scale? Because I know the blues scale. The blues scale is... So I said, I know the blues scale, but what's the jazz scale so I can sound all jazzy in that? And he started to tell me the answer, like there was lots of modes and superlocrians and altered and scales. And I started to really get a headache straight away, right? I thought, I'm not going to learn like this. It sounded like too much hard work and complicated. And since then, I've kind of tried to simplify the whole thing. And in my years of teaching and helping guitarists play jazz or gypsy jazz, whatever you want to call it, I've realized that simplifying the whole thing is the way to go. So I'm going to go through, I'm just going to give you a taste of the masterclass, right, that I'm teaching on Friday in the club, right, gypsyjazzclub.com. And if you go to that URL, you can just enter your name and email, and you can join the class on Friday. So a simple guide to Gypsy Jazz soloing, right? This is to help you make your solos sound more meaningful, more melodic, more groovy, right? And more impressive, okay? Whatever level you're at. So the first point is improvisation is repetition. Now, there's this really cool bass player. I don't know if you know him. His name is Richard Boner, and he's an incredible musician. And I saw an interview with him recently, and the guy was asking him about improvising. And the first thing he said was, we don't really improvise in jazz. We repeat things. It's repetition. So improvisation is actually repetition. So we're kind of doing things that we've done before, and we do them more and more, and hopefully we get better at doing them, right? So just to take all the mystery out of it, it's not coming from God. You're not born improvising, but just know that basically if you practice a little bit, right, whatever level you're at, and you do the practice on the same things, on fewer things than lots of things, then you will start to sound good at improvising. Okay, so improvisation is repetition. We'll be diving into this topic in the masterclass on Friday, gypsyjazzclub.com. Now, practice with tunes. I put this way up top of the list because too many people, I think, get lost in the practice room with a metronome and kind of get into arpeggio land without actually relating it to music. And in real life, we play music. When we meet each other, we play tunes. So make sure whatever you're practicing, you're actually practicing it to tunes. So learn fewer tunes, right? So don't know 100 tunes, kind of, but really know well a few tunes. And then with those few tunes, really kind of get comfortable by repetition, by getting good at soloing on them, okay? So keep things simple. Now, I'm just going to go quickly through these points, right? Number 3, how to simplify chords, right? So when you look at a chord chart, or you're going to learn a new tune, you're going to see some chords, right? And basically there's 3 types of chord, okay? So I'm simplifying it for you, okay? Even when I'm thinking about music, I'm thinking about 3 types of chords. There's major chords, right? Happy major chords. There's minor chords, sad, moody minor chords. And there's dominant 7th chords, right? So forget about the numbers, the 9s, the flat 9s, the flat 5, all that stuff. There's major, minor, and dominant 7th. So then when we know that, when we look at any piece of music, it's going to have, every chord is going to be either a major chord, a minor chord, or a dominant 7th chord. Now, once you can recognize that, then what are we going to play over those chords, right? So then we need to know stuff to play over those chords, and that's what we're going to practice. Now, this is really simplistic, but I'm just going to say it. You need to know your major stuff, when you play over a major chord, your minor stuff, right? All the stuff that you can play over a minor chord in your own way, and it's going to sound groovy. And your dominant 7th stuff, right? So when you hit a dominant 7th chord, you've got stuff that you've played and practiced that you know will work over that chord. So that's the stuff that you're going to play over the chords. Now, where do you get your stuff, right? Where do you get your stuff from? That's a great question. We go on to page 2 now. I'm going to be diving deep into all these topics on Friday in the masterclass. Melodic soloing, okay? This is some of your stuff. Now, this is an obvious place to start with soloing, right? So if you're playing like a tune like, right, Sweet Georgia Brown. So you could start with a melody, and believe it or not, if you want your solos to sound melodic, then play with the melody. Go figure that, right? You go. And you kind of play around with the melody, it's going to start to sound melodic. So really important. Scales and arpeggios, as boring as they are, just know your major scales, right? Your major scale and your minor scale. And I'm being really simplistic and almost naive with that, but if you know where C major is all over the neck, then you're in business, right? Learn less scales, but know them really well. In fact, learn 2 scales, a major scale, right? And a minor scale, right? And if you know the major scale, if you know it everywhere over the neck, then you're going to be really able to play over those chords when you hit them in your solos and really sound interesting and melodic, because you'll be really confident at playing the major scale. Forget about all the modes and all that stuff. It's just too complicated, right? And life's too short. So get to know your major scales, your minor scales all over the neck. Same with the arpeggios, right? I'm going over these quickly. I'm teaching a masterclass on Friday, and you can join me. gypsyjazzclub.com. Go there. And just enter your name and email. Licks, right? You can do so much with licks, just few licks, right? You need a lick for a major chord, right? A really simple lick, right? And then that's one of the licks that you know. Then you know a minor lick, something like that. Right? And you build up these licks slowly. You learn less licks, the same with less tunes, less licks, but learn them well. Really own them. So when you get to an E7 chord, right? One of the licks which works over E7 stems out of B minor, right? Go figure. Right? So that was actually one of the things which, to answer the question myself, what do I find most challenging? It was playing over dominant seventh chords, because it's like, well, I know major, right? Major over major, that's kind of simple. Minor over minor, yeah, I get it. But then what over dominant seventh? It's kind of major, but it's not really minor, but what is it? So there's a few tricks to that. And one of them is like, for example, over E7, you could play kind of a B minor idea. Right, there's a B minor. So if I play E7, I can go. Right, it works over E7. So licks can go really far. You need major licks, dominant seventh licks, and minor licks, right? And you can do loads with just a few licks. I'll be diving into that in the class on Friday. I'd love it if you could join me. Enclosures, these things which are really useful, these kind of things where you see the arpeggio, right? And then you can go from above or from below. And it's a really easy way to and then you can go. You can do all sorts of things, but it's quite a simplistic way to improvise. You just kind of see the scale or the arpeggio, and you go a step above and a step below. So that's part of your stuff, right, on improvising. Chromatics, this is really easy on the guitar when you play chromatics, because it's kind of like the glue when you're improvising in jazz. And it's like, don't get obsessed with, a minor scale. Right, that's minor harmonic, right? A melodic. There's only one note difference, right? Harmonic. So forget about that. Just glue them together. Just play both. Why not go? You can play both. So just keep things really black and white and black. It's like minor. Is it minor? Is it major? Okay. It will really help you. It will help your solos sound more natural and groovy. Okay. So enclosures, chromatics. They're the glue. And it's not like on piano where we've got to really figure it out. We can just kind of slide our hand up and down, and it's basically going to sound pretty good. As long as we go somewhere and we've left somewhere, and you keep a straight face, then chromatics are going to really help you sound groovy and jazzy, okay, without knowing the theory. Forget about that. Bouncing technique. This is a technique which has helped many of the club members, and I've taught it before, where you basically pick 2 notes per chord. So you're playing over a song, right? And for each chord, you pick 2 notes. And you go between those 2 notes, move to the next chord, pick another 2 notes. And if I was doing that over all of me, you've got C major, E7. So I would go like, take 2 notes in C major, right? There's 2 good notes in C major. And then when I go to E7, I go, right? I go to E7 like that. A7, D minor. And you can do that as an exercise, just really kind of just like that. E7. It's a good thing to do. Up to D minor. And then you're back to E7. Then you're A minor. You can do that kind of like in a kind of exercise way. And then you can groove it. You can kind of go. And you can start to kind of make music with it. But this method of the bouncing technique, it really helps you kind of make your solos groovy. So I'm going to be diving into that in the masterclass on Friday. Breathing technique. Go figure. If you play a phrase, then take a breath, then what you say before and after will become more meaningful just by leaving a gap. So that's really easy to understand, the logic, but sometimes it's hard for us to do because we want to kind of fill all the gaps and we want to impress and fill all the, shred and all that stuff. But one technique which can make your solo sound groovy is taking a breath. Play a phrase, take your hand off the guitar, take a breath, put it back. Very simple, but it really works, and you can try it when you're practicing. Crispy chords, we want to get chords for major chords, minor chords, and dominant seventh chords. And then you can kind of add crispy chords to your solos, which always sounds really groovy, right? So I'll be diving into some crispy chords. This is an epic masterclass I'll be teaching at the Gypsy Jazz Club. And the last couple of points here is common chord patterns, right? These are things which you see all the time, like D minor 7, G7, C is a 2-5-1, so you see it as a 2-5-1, right? And then something like, rhythm changes, you see it as rhythm changes, not as D, B minor, E minor. So you look for those patterns, and that makes improvising a little bit easier. And then I'll be showing you where you can put, you can blanket all the changes with one tonality. That's really helpful to know where you can do that. How to develop your ear, that should be number one really, but it's end of the list. But get to know the sounds of the notes. Do yourself a favor. When you play a C major 7 chord, you've got that C major 7 vibe, which is kind of, I don't know, you might relate to it differently, but it's kind of, for me, it's kind of flowery, it's going, over the C major. The 6 has got a different sound. Right, it's kind of like, and each note has got a different vibe, the flat 9, then it's got real tension and drama. So use your ear, develop your ear. Don't think too much. Go with your heart and your ears and your instinct, you should trust your instinct when you're playing over these songs. And it goes back to the point I was making earlier, which is practice with tunes. So when you're practicing soloing, do yourself a favor and really practice with a metronome and imagine the chord changes, or practice with a backing track and do it with tunes, because in real life we don't meet up and say, hey man, you want to play a D major arpeggio, or should we do a super locrian? I definitely don't want to go to those kind of parties. So we want to play music and tunes, right? That's real life, and that's the joy and beauty about this music. So practice with tunes and just keep practicing over and over. Improvisation, like Richard Boner said, Richard Boner, the incredible bass player, the incredible musician, said, improvisation is not improvisation. We're not improvising, right? We're repeating things. If we're improvising, he said, imagine you walking in the jungle and you see a lion. Then you'd improvise, right? You go, that's never happened before. What am I going to do? So you've got to improvise. But you're going to play minor swing, or you're going to play All of Me, or you're going to play Coquette or Bossa Dorado. So nothing's going to be surprising. You know that those chords are coming. So you practice to play over those chords, and then it's repetition. You're repeating things you've said before. Maybe you say them in a slightly different way, but you're saying them again. Okay? So just get used to that concept, and don't worry about practicing the same things over and over with tunes. And whatever level you're at or standard, it doesn't matter. There's always someone who's technically better than you, or you're technically better than someone else. Play within your means. Nobody wants to hear a drunk Al Di Meola, okay? So we don't want to hear, nobody actually wants to hear that, right? So why be that guy or girl? We're trying to play meaningful, beautiful solos, okay? So let me recap. What the hell is going on? Who is this guy? I asked you a question at the beginning. What is your biggest challenge with soloing? Okay, so write that in, okay, and I will answer you. I answer all my comments. Write that in. What is your biggest challenge with soloing? And then I've been going through this. I'm teaching this class on Friday at the Gypsy Jazz Club, right? Every 2 weeks I teach a class, a real deep dive into something important. This week is a simple guide to Gypsy Jazz soloing. And I've really thought about how we can improve our soloing so we sound meaningful, melodic, groovy, impressive, without sounding naff and sounding like we're playing scales and arpeggios, sounding like we're struggling. We don't need to struggle, okay? Whatever level you're at, don't struggle, don't sweat it. We're practicing with tunes, we're simplifying chords, major, minor, dominant, seventh, right? Forget about the numbers. Then we need to get stuff that we play over those chords, your major stuff. Get your major stuff together. It might only be one lick and one little thing. Get your minor stuff together. Get your dominant stuff together. So when you play over those chords, you've got stuff ready, okay? Repetition. Do it more and more with fewer tunes. Where do you get your stuff? Well, you get it from me, actually. The club is a big help, so go to gypsyjazzclub.com. There's a whole community who help each other and support each other. And I'm teaching this class on Friday, so go there. Melodic soloing, great place to start. Embellish the melody. It will sound melodic, go figure. Scales and arpeggios, basically major and minor. Don't complicate it further, okay? Licks, know a few licks. Major licks, minor licks, dominant seventh licks. Play them really well like you own them, okay? Don't learn more licks, get better at the licks that you know already. Enclosures, right? I'll be teaching enclosures. Chromatics are the glue that kind of glue it all together. They're easy on the guitar, we just slide up and down. Bouncing technique, that's easy, we just bounce 2 notes per chord. Breathing, say something, take a breath, and then say something, and whatever you say will sound more meaningful, just by default, right? Crispy chords, I'll be teaching crispy chords. Okay, I'll be showing you common chord patterns so you can recognize them, and then how to develop your ears so you can really get a relationship going with the music and your solos will sound more meaningful. Okay, so go to gypsyjazzclub.com. That's my bad picture of a guitar. These are actually musical notes, and that's a heart there. So gypsyjazzclub.com. If someone's from the club watching this, happens to be watching it, then type a few words in about your experience in the club. And that's it for today. So it's just a pre-teaser to let you know that this is going down in the Gypsy Jazz Club this Friday, like every other Friday. And you're welcome to join. You've just got to enter your name and email, and you can join us and join the community, and you'll be blown away, and you'll be welcome too. So I wish you a beautiful day. Stay inspired like always, and lots of love, okay? See you in the club. Cheers.